welcome to my channel where books and crafts are taking over my life. If any one of you noticed, I haven't done October wrap-up, so really we're looking more into talking about October till mid-November potentially. So I have collected many books. So I read Bwitched because sometime last year I noticed this book and I was like, I do like this cover. It looks, it did match what I was reading like more over last year. And it was about witchcraft, about like shadow messages. And I found like, even though we tried to raise tension, it wasn't gripping enough for me. It was a bit too teenagey, I say. So I wasn't necessarily enjoying that too much. But if you're looking something that is like sort of more like very like nowadays school drama with the witchcraft, I think that's where we are with this book. I had Cackle. Cackle was something I really enjoyed. It's for some reason it felt like really cozy, and it wasn't a full-blown witchcraft story, but it sort of eased into it. It started with like spiders in the house, and the main character I don't think didn't really see magic in the beginning. It was just like some of these things happening in the life, so it felt more like a magical realism for most of this book, really. At the end, it was a bit more magical. I really liked the end. It felt so non-typical. She had this, it's about, this sort of almost relationship with another witch, but not like really romantic relationship. It's almost was described as like she's being almost like a pet of this other witch, I would say, but it's not really like romantic or anything. But at the same time, it just felt different, really, more than anything. But for some reason, it felt like really cozy to read and just like relax and read it. So I would say I still quite recommend it. My other witch story was Goldhanger Dog. I spoke about this, a bit more because it was my book of the month for a Patreon in October. It's by the Wanda Whiteley, who is Essex writer, and it's based in UK, and it has the map, but it's based in 1500s, about this girl Della who can communicate with animals, and basically she's kind of persecuted. It doesn't feel like witchcraft at all. It just feels like she has sympathy for animals. So it's also reads more like a maybe magical realism or historical fiction, but more adventurous, less thick one, let's say. So actually it wasn't too bad of a read, I would say, if you did want it to consider. Okay. Big talk is this book, right? Babel by F Kuang. It came out, everyone was buzzing about it, and I just needed to jump onto and read it because I felt like I'm behind. But also I did like Poppy Wars of F Kuang. I didn't keep up with trilogy, but I was planning to do that. Obviously it's been a while ago now. But obviously it reads very fast despite how thick it is. It's really gorgeously written. The magic system is based around languages, so there's a lot of language references. It's sort of like a dark academia book and being referred as dark academia book. It's about this character, Robin, who basically is like taken in by this professor and they study in this language institute. So there's a lot of like angst with being a student, sort of student years, but also there are quite a few other bits in the plot that I really enjoyed, and I like some of the plot beats as well, let's say. But I'm not gonna I don't want to reveal a lot about this, but basically the biggest thing about this, I think I wrote this phrase somewhere, that there was quite a lot inequality in this, let's say. And I feel like not a lot of people who reviewed that book, not everyone mentioned that. It was for me, it felt like really sharply, honestly. And I wrote this phrase where we say, we were men at Oxford, but not Oxford men, which basically describes the difference. And, as being an immigrant, I kind of understand that really, really well. So I think for me, it was quite a sensitive topic, not necessarily for everyone is. But here we are. I really loved it. Okay, regards to Babel, I'm gonna speak more about Babel in my Patreon stream in November, and go into the detail of the plot. But at this point, I'm just gonna leave it here. Now, this was a little comic called Vampire Loves, and it's just the first volume. It's not like a big story at all. It's just all these interactions of this vampire with different sort of creatures and ladies. So there's I think there's a vampire lady, there's a human lady, there is some sort of creature thing. I think a demon as well, but anyway, and he basically interacts with all these people sort of differently. But in itself, it's not much of a story, but it's kind of easy to just read through. I actually picked it up from a charity shop, because I thought it will match with Halloween vibes, and comics are usually graphic novels, quick to read in between any bigger books. So really, yeah, it was just a little fine for me. But okay, I'm just gonna mention this one because I discovered this that is said magazine, right? A magazine of cozy fantasy. Oh my dear, Vingraph? I have no idea how you pronounce that. But anyway, it's just volume 1. It was summer 1. I also have, I think, autumn 1, which is the next one I'm going to read. But I usually just like carrying this around with me, if I go out, in case I want to sit down and read something. But it's more of a short stories, a collection of short stories. I love the beginning of this, where we sort of introduced what is coziness, what is cozy fantasy to everyone. And it's basically every different person will say about it differently. Some will say it's low stakes, some will say it's all about environment. I like the concept to begin with. That's what it was seeking for. Obviously, because it's short stories, I cannot tell more about them. But I want to say, in between, at the end of each short story, you get a little description about author, where are they in their, creativity now, and what links do they have, which I thought this was very, very nice touch to it, and sort of opens you to more writers. So that's about that, really. Laila and the Blue Fox. This is almost like a second book, let's say, by the same authors. So whoever heard about Julie and the Shark, whoever heard about Julie and the Shark, know that it was a big sort of very well illustrated book, and had quite few notices last year, I believe. But basically this is the same creator, so they made another book called Laila and the Fox. I haven't read Julie and the Shark, but basically I was looking for something wintry to get me into the season, and again, I just noticed it on the shelf. It wasn't really on my plans, but I actually really, really liked it. It's about relationship between Laila and her mom, how we were a bit separated by Laila's mom's work with polar creatures, and how that sort of interest in polar nature kind of brings them back together. Anyway, so that really would be what is the premise about. But look at these gorgeous pictures. It's limited palette. I really liked it. I think it's so nicely done. And I think I showed it in my other blog, but it has transparent pictures, transparent pages where you have little paws streaking through the pages. But anyway, I found this could be very good gift, so I'm planning to gift it away. So the next one, Eva Evergreen, second book, right? I read the first book last year. This was sitting on my shelf for a year, waiting for me to read it. And honestly, the plot is very, it has more plot than the first book. The first book was more Kiki's Delivery Vibes book, and you still probably hear about it in that sense. this one is sort of more like its own separate adventure, I felt. I didn't quite enjoy it, but it could be because I was already detached from from the story, but also it didn't feel as cozy for me as like the first book. In any sense, it sort of reads like just like a more of an um adventure book more than anything. In case you did wanted to read a sequel, but honestly, I had to make myself to do it because I wasn't as much into that vibe anymore. Um, so I read City of Dragons, okay, because I saw this on someone else's channel and I thought that's lovely for, looked like something I would really, really enjoy. I hope for a different story. And I feel like it's what I've been saying about most of the books today, isn't it? But anyway, so this girl basically gets a dragon egg that just basically pushed onto her from some marketplace, which hatches a dragon. And it just felt like very sort of predictable plot almost. Again, is I believe just the beginning of the series is just volume one, and a lot of times it's not enough for me to get into it in that beginning. Now, I was not planning to continue with this because it didn't quite read as complex plot for me, like or interesting enough. I felt like it's something that quite expected and usually, like almost superhero type of story. I don't know. So I am not gonna read it, but obviously I just wanted. I'm sorry. I had alarm ringing because I actually have like million of things to do. But as I say, Dragon City, I'm not gonna like continue for the series, but it was actually a good opportunity for me to bring something I really carrying on with and really enjoyed what I just read in these months. So, at least something that I very, 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 very strongly recommend. And I bought like the deluxe editions, but they come in the smaller volumes. So this is also a graphic novel. It's The Girl from the Other Side. And honestly, it's so adorable. And look at this deluxe edition. I just cannot not be excited about it. Look how beautiful it is and how nice it looks in the shelf. I honestly have both volumes stacked in a shelf, and we literally just like fulfills it more than anything. And look at the end of it. It's a little flower. Right. And honestly, this is such a good story, and it's very, 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 very cute. The girl, the main character, is like just such a cute creature. So basically, I'll just tell you very roughly. The story is that there is other side and a human side, and creatures in other side are sort of cursed, and whoever gets touched by such a creature should be cursed and turn into one of them. And this girl is supposedly also cursed, but also she is uncursed. So that's where we sort of follow it, because she is being persecuted by human world because she is thought to be some sort of like what we call a soul. But I think at this point, I don't know what we're planning to do with her, but I feel like we're planning to actually kill her, which is very, very sad. But honestly, so she lives with her teacher, who is one of his creatures, and it's despite a lot of tension with the actual story and persecution or whatever happening in the plot, which is I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of cozy elements of their daily lives. It's like slice of life and very cute pictures and really, really enjoyable. Like I just find it so, so, so adorable. I want to share something more of the cute pictures more than anything, because it's mostly obviously going to be the covers that I can share without showing you a lot of the different aspects to it. So give me a moment. But what I want to say Okay. I want to say that, oh, look at this. This has nothing to do with a story, but this is something of that slice of life cuteness, right? Anyway, I wanted to say I have a second volume, and the third one is sometime coming out. Honestly, the further I mean, it's a deluxe volume, but deluxe edition or whatever. But the actual volumes are further ahead. So if you really, read to the point, I think it's up to. I would want to say the first one is 1 to 3, and this is 4 to 6. But anyway, unless you read further ahead, there's definitely more out. But it's again in the same gorgeous. Look at this, the same gorgeous picture of it, really, more than anything. I love these editions. Originally, I only got one volume, honestly, and I was like looking at these, and I'm like, I need to get them, but these are so pretty, and there's a slice of cake. Anyway, so this is something I'm really carrying on through. This is like just so adorable and so me. Okay. This is what we need to talk about regardless. Spirit Week just came out. Ira Marcks, I interviewed him. We talked about this a lot during our interview, and this is about basically kids who like to make movies, and we get into this mansion that is basically a reference to Shining, and it's all about it's sort of I believe a movie maker or movie writer lives there. But anyway, what this is about really is more like a reference to Shining told in the middle grade. And I don't want to reveal a lot, but I was reading it. Obviously, it didn't necessarily was scary or in the same sense as Shining, but like if you know Shining, you can see all these references. Even this kid, look how he's dressed up. Anyway, you see all these references to Shining, and I was like, I just want to rewatch Shining now. But I just want to say, this is not scary at all, but it could be good for fans of horror movies, really, more than anything. But it's a middle grade, so like, can you not have a better combination? Okay, and back again to witchcraft books, I think. Honestly, is a lot of Halloween books, so you have to make a list for next year more than anything. This is another book that came out. It's Lindsay Puckett Glass Witch. I literally just finished reading it very, very recently. I was really looking forward to it because it's a debut book for Lindsay Puckett. I love her channel. I love watching her vlogs, and honestly, it was a fun read. Let's say this is about this girl Abie who basically mom sends to live her in another town, I believe, and she doesn't want to stay there alone or whatever, so she kind of triggers an old curse onto her family, which I believe her family is a witch family anyway, so the curse sort of makes her bones turn to glass. And then meanwhile, she also trying to be part of this Halloween pageant show, let's say. But I really love the last lines, and if you worry about this being any signs of spoiler, you can pause for a second, skip through a couple of books. But I want to say I really love these lines. A breeze whispers through my hair, carrying a snippet of ancestor song. I close my eyes and listen, letting the magic roost between my ribs, as if it's always belonged here. I loved it. I don't know why I loved it. I loved it. So that's about that. Oh, just to say about Glass Witch, there's a lot about family in here. So like I felt like it's actually kept like going around the family more than anything, and I don't think in the description before I heard enough people saying about this, but it's a lot of story is actually around that family more than anything. Okay, so to continue with a horror stories with the Halloween season stories is I did audiobooks of something that was on my list also forever. So really there is a 4-book series, starting with Small Spaces, which Small Spaces I done last year. I wasn't too engaged in it, but then I heard a lot about Dead Voices. A lot of people really said like it's very spooky, they really enjoy it, and it kept being on my list almost forever. So I really done Dead Voices, Dark Waters, and Empty Smiles all together one after another. So just to talk about the series, Dead Voices is about, it's all about the same characters, but in the Dead Voices we go to this cabin that is basically haunted. But I want to say there's such a good vivid description listening about this, and like it starts with like someone meets a girl who looks for her bones, and I'm like, oh my dear, I'm so creeped out already. Like I really like got into it, and also how we describe the frost everywhere, like the fingers going black from the frost and the frost on the eyelashes, and it's just so cold in the atmosphere. I feel like the description was the best in Dead Voices whatsoever, and really got me into that book. And I found it really creepy, a lot of confrontation with the main villain, and I really enjoyed it. So really, if you want to do just a standalone, Dead Voices is the one you need to listen to. The other ones, Dark Waters, was about like water monster, like kind of like Loch Ness type of monster, and I found that didn't do as much confrontation with the main villain in there, and also that it felt sort of like a build up to the fourth book. It didn't really feel like its own book almost. It just really felt like quite mild for me. But then a Empty Smiles, the fourth book, you have like a lot of confrontation with this main villain called Seth. And I felt like that's really what runs the story in general in all 4 books, is really what we should have done a bit more in other ones as well, because is more tension in that direction. So actually Empty Smiles was more about like carnival atmosphere. We were kind of in some sort of like twisted, haunted carnival place. Circus, clowns, and carnival, really what you're looking at. So again, for me, if I had to grade them like from my favorite to my least favorite, so first one would definitely be Dead Voices, and the second one would be Empty Smiles. I wasn't like Dark Waters and Small Spaces are sort of leveled in a similar level, I say. Maybe I don't remember Small Spaces well enough to say where we compete, but here we are. So really, I really say that Voices is something worthwhile checking out. Okay, so really, I am. It's all about Dragon Prince. Dragon Prince came out on Netflix as a new season. I haven't watched it yet, please don't spoil. But basically, my partner for my birthday gave me like all these books from Dragon Prince. And book 1 I read, which is The Moon, is really just a recap up to where Sim is like hatching. So really, not gonna say any more because it's literally by the same writers, I believe. So it just feels like a recap for me because I've already seen it, and I think I rewatched it as well before. So another one. These are more like standalone parts. This is more like a separate story. Blood Moon Huntress is about Laila, and just about the time with her parents went to this mission, I believe, and then she's not quite part of the group yet, but basically she hears about this blood moon huntress in the area and bad things happening. That's about that. It's quite nice. This read quite nicely. It was very quick read. It's sort of like a extra chapter to it really. Now Dragon Prince's Callum spellbook is supposedly like a accompanying book, and it's sort of more of the descriptions of like different sort of creatures and characters. There's some sketches of them, imagining that this is a Callum's book where he sketches. Oh, I really love the sign language, really. More than anything, we put in sign language in here, and they put the secret message where you say, can you decode this message? And I love that. Honestly, in a sense of like examples of similar type of books, like I have Hilda's book, but it's written by a different authors, but it's also like accompanying book. And honestly, I don't think this gives as much additional personality. And maybe if they did it much more sketchy, I would kind of enjoy it more. But I just felt it's really just also kind of a recap. And I don't think I had like enough of that extra touch. I still enjoyed it, but honestly, I'm having a lot of recap of Dragon Prince. As I in the beginning, I said this is October to mid-November. We're already in the November, and I'm sure that in the rest of the November till the mid of the November, I'm gonna be reading more of Dragon Prince just to catch up. So there's not much to, talk about this in general. And additionally, my book of the month for Patreon, like a second book of the month, if you read Babel and want to pick up something else, is Plain Bad Heroines, which I literally just started. And it's gonna take me a little while, I think definitely till mid of a month to finish this. So again, I won't be talking about this a lot because I will be talking about this on my stream in Patreon. So in that sense, probably next time you'll see me for book reviews and book wrap-ups is gonna be in earliest December. But we'll see how things go because obviously holiday season, we might actually not have such a big wrap up. For a moment, well, thank you for tuning in. There might be not as many books you want to pick up, but most of them are for you to consider for your next year's Halloween season because there's a lot of witchcraft books, a lot of spooky books. So really, if you want to dot something on your list, please do so. Otherwise, see you next time. Bye.